Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Maxwell Construction, who has been our sponsor since the very beginning. For over 30 years, Maxwell has delivered the highest quality projects by holding to their core values of customer satisfaction, positive attitude, respect, and excellence. So if you have any kind of commercial construction need, give Maxwell Construction a call today at 812-537-2200. Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, and I am here with my spring break crush.
Your spring break crush?
Yes, spring break crush. Remember, 39 years ago,
oh my gosh.
This week we met.
Hang on. Hang on.
Now, come on.
Shakes.
Come on. College spring break. 19 what was that?
1984.
Yeah, there you go.
1984. We were definitely giving up our age on that one.
There you go.
Yep, that was a trip that will live in infamy. Still paying for that trip.
Oh, quit it. That is such an old joke. But seriously, we were down in Daytona Beach. I was with some girlfriends.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about this many times.
I know, but it's like reminiscing. It's like this is the week of college spring break that we were down there. But, I was not looking for a new relationship. Like I had sworn off guys.
You were just coming off
I had broke up with a boyfriend for months ago, and I was like done with guys. I was like, but then you came along.
I wasn't really looking.
You had a girlfriend at the time.
I had a girlfriend.
Hope she's not listening to the show.
Slim chance of that.
Yeah, but no, I was crushing on you.
You were crushing on me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, those sound like such weird terms.
I think that I think I was crushing on you a lot more than you were crushing on me.
Well, I'd say we definitely had a great time. I'll say the beer was flowing.
Yeah.
I'll say the party was there.
Yeah.
But it was because the beer was flowing.
Yeah.
That could have got really nasty.
That could have gotten. And it didn't, as far as, there's a lot of teens and young adults that are planning trips and heading to spring break. And there's a lot that will come back with some very deep regrets. And many of them will make very bad decisions that will haunt them for a long time.
Yeah.
And so thankfully that was not us. Even though you say you paid for that trip, still paying for that trip, I'm thankful that did not come out with a lot of wounds and a lot of regrets. And so that's what we're talking about today.
That gets in our show about the idea of mistakes or hurts or wounds in our past. And really, though, we've talked about wounds before, but we're going to go a little bit differently today and talking about, there's a misnomer, or maybe not a misnomer as much as a phrase, where it is time will heal all wounds. Yeah. And time definitely does something with the wounds, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it always has to heal. It could heal wrong or whatever. So we're going to actually
talk about that.
Hopefully get into that and help people understand that wounds are part of life. And you got to learn to recover and heal from them. And how are you going to do that?
The right way. Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about. But before we do, we want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Maxwell Construction for their support of what we do here at Rock Solid Radio, but also our parent company, Rock Solid Families. And, that kind of leads me, if we are hitting a nerve today, if you kind of reached out on this show because you have wounds and because you're hurting, then reach out. You can connect with us at 812-576-ROCK, 812-576-7625, or you can contact us, rocksolidfamilies.org. But, if you are in need of a coach, a counselor, a mentor, a pastor, a priest, there is hope and there is help available. Please, please do not let those wounds keep getting infected and seeping and poisoning your life.
Yeah, oftentimes, we talk about the wounds even before people get married. You can be wounded within a marriage, but a lot of times problems will come in the premarital phase where a couple is just totally infatuated with each other because of the fun or the lust or the attraction. And we don't realize that there could be wounds from the past. And then when all of the shiny and flashy stuff wears off, then the wound starts to bring itself up. Like maybe you don't know how to communicate well, or maybe you're very jealous, or maybe you have fears and anxieties. And so those past wounds come up. And so when we do premarital work, we actually spend a large portion of the time talking about pre-existing wounds. And try to help
expectations in the future.
And how to help dismiss those that should be dismissed, but then actually process well those that need to still be dealt with and healed differently.
This is some of the things that people think when they come back with their baggage, their wounds, or their past hurts, and they think that, well, if I just kind of let it go, they'll say, I don't have to address them. They'll just take care of themselves.
Right.
Like that's not true. Or time will take care of it. We're just going to let it ride. Right. Some of us in this room are conflict avoiders.
Who would that be? Who would that be? I would be the guy. Can we just brush this under the rug for a little bit? Like a lifetime?
Yeah. And so it sounds like a much better idea than kind of tackling it and kind of doing surgery on those wounds, right? So, or just brush it under the rug and eventually it's going to disappear. But the reality is we actually got some little area rugs in our office in some of our coaching rooms. And it's perfect because we talk about that brushing under the rug.
Right.
And really it just creates this gigantic hump of crud that you start tripping over because you've brushed under so much and you haven't dealt with it and resolved it and healed it right, that it really becomes a barrier in your marriage and relationships.
Yeah. And, eventually, just like a regular wound, like if you get a splinter under your finger, that day that you actually get it, it hurts just when you touch that area.
Yeah.
But, eventually it can even kind of grow up and over. But if the splinter is not removed effectively, it usually has a lot of bacteria and stuff like that associated with it. And before you know it, you're getting this red raised area on your finger or wherever the splinter is. And it actually gets inflamed. And the next thing you know, you have to have that whole thing sort of, extracted, whether with the doctor or your own tweezers. But it's painful because it's festered.
It didn't help, though. Our older boys didn't seem to be bothered by this too much. But by the time our younger three came around, especially our daughter, you had a little fun with this. And these poor little kids, they get a splinter and they be crying and you're like, I'll take care of that. You come in with your magnifying glasses on and your tweezers. And then, of course, you always have to have a big old long needle, right? And they're like, no. And you're like, it'll be fine. And and you like scare them half to death. But
that's part of the fun of being a dad.
But that did not go over well, especially with our daughter.
Suck it up, Buttercup. We're going to get this thing out.
But, the reality is that, yes, it created a little pain at the point of the infection or the needle or the splinter going in, but it was the surgery that had to be done that kept the infection from growing and really getting, much worse.
I know oftentimes when I talk with couples and we start talking about wounds, I also frequently compare it to like a broken bone. And so upon impact, you have a broken bone, maybe your thigh or femur it snaps, okay? And I mean, that would be like an affair, right? Or immediate loss of a job or a bankruptcy. Like there's no question about it. There was a direct hit.
Break,
There was a break. And, people panic and rightfully, like, what am I going to do next? But the very first thing that, the doctors have taught us is that we have to stabilize the wound. We have to stabilize the break. And so, just understanding that idea, like, well, you broke your leg. You just can't assume that you're going to just keep walking. You have to stabilize it. And so, in the medical world, we would put a cast on the leg. We would, and we would try, if I just put a cast on the leg and I don't reset it, and this is what happens oftentimes, well, I'll just stabilize it and I'll let it go. I mean, we've talked before, it will heal, but likely to heal wrong, and then you'll have a limp the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And this is what we have with relationships. If I have something bad that happened in a previous relationship or in the current relationship, and I just try to stabilize without setting it proper, without getting it fixed straight, and then starting to re-strengthen. And then so, we put the cast on, get the cast off, start in physical therapy, start testing it and building it up. It's a process of healing. And so that stabilization, though, is so important.
Yeah. Do you remember our son went to camp with one of his best friends, and his best friend broke his arm at camp, and he didn't want to leave camp because it was fun. And so he just literally stayed there the rest of the week with a broken arm.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember this? Well, if you ask him today, and I don't want to use his name, but if you ask him today, he'll show you how his arm healed crooked. And when he finally went and told his mom, of course, is panicking, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so the doctor said, well, you can either live with this crooked arm or we have to re-break it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Needless to say, he's a 31-year-old man and he has a crooked arm. Because that thought of re-breaking it sounded too miserable.
Yeah. So, hon, let's talk about the wounds. Let's actually talk about how we can help couples out there actually start to heal the old wounds and hopefully get better onto a better path.
But let's first see, because I have a feeling there's some people listening to this that don't even really know if this is them. Okay. And so I use this analogy of my knee surgery. Okay. I had knee surgery in college, messed up my knee playing volleyball, and I have this really beautiful scar on my knee that is way bigger than that they would use today. But anyway, I can touch that scar. I can remember that surgery, but it doesn't hurt to touch anymore. That tells me that has healed right.
Yeah.
Okay. But if I still had a scar from a surgery and I'm touching on it and or it's infected or it's pussing or it's bleeding, then that tells you it is not healed properly. And so if I turn this into an emotional discussion, it would look like this. Maybe you got divorced 10 years ago and you say you've forgiven your husband and that wound is healed. But every time you see your ex or that name is brought up, you just get angry and bitter and resentful, and it triggers something inside you that's not pretty. That tells me that wound has not healed right, and you probably need some surgery on it because it's festering a lot of ugly infection in there. And so that's what I'm talking about when we say it hasn't healed right.
Yeah, the right word there is the trigger, right? Like you can think everything is okay until somebody touches that little hot spot and it fires you back up again, whether it's the hurt or the jealousy or whatever. And so it is a trigger type thing.
Yeah. So let's do the 5 steps to healing an old wound right. Okay. And when we say right, we mean that you are able to, when we stabilized and kind of feel like you are healthy in a healthy spot, you're not holding on to bitterness and resentment, you're not having fear or anger. Those are some of the warning signs that your wounds have not healed right.
Yeah. So the very first part of that, right, is just acknowledging how you feel, the pain of it. Like rather than, this too shall pass, it's no big deal. Like actually acknowledging, I notice that every time I see this person or we bring up this topic or, I have to do this activity that hurt, frustrated, angry, and put words to it.
Yeah. And it could even be something like grief. For instance, if you lost someone you love and it's 3 years later and you still can't even draw yourself into going into their room, okay, that says that wound is not healed right. And so you got to get some help for that. I'm not saying you can't grieve, but I'm saying get some help for that so that you can heal and grow and be stronger and healthier, better.
Yeah, but because you got stuck, right? You got stuck in that. And so, as an avoider, I would be classic in that. If I, let's just say I got hurt at a church, okay, which is a very common hurt that people have. I don't go to church anymore. I'm not even sure if I believe in God anymore. Well, what happened? Well, one time the preacher said this or did this or whatever. And so as an avoider, the way that I would deal with that is I just would stop going to that church.
or
Okay.
church period.
I'll drive 30 miles out of my way to go to a different church.
Yeah.
And so these are the things here where they are the red flags of I'm not going to heal well.
Yeah. And the enemy loves that because what we do is we equate that one church or that one church experience or that one person in the church to church in general or God in general. And so the enemy wins. He binds us with that unforgiveness and that resentment, and it festers into some really ugliness about God, about the church with the big C, instead of that little church down the street with the little c, that we create this wound and then we just keep it infected.
Hun, we see it all the time with families.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's a dissension, a splitting on some particular topic. And the next thing you know is like, well, I haven't talked to my brother or I haven't talked to my mom or whoever in years. And, the idea of coming back together, the risk here of just saying, well, you need to get back together and deal with it. You've got to have the tools to deal with it well, because if you just go, hey, I want this to get resolved, and you don't really have the tools, you will probably just dig on the splinter and not know how to actually extract it.
And that's why we call it pouring salt in the wound, right? Like we haven't helped. For instance, if maybe a parent had died and you were left money and the family, the siblings didn't agree on how that money was divided.
Right.
And so all of a sudden we're not talking to each other for years. And so we got to be really careful on when you come back around and you say you're going to resolve it, are you bringing up all that resentment or anger? So you're going to probably need some outside help with that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the understanding of the why.
So step one was recognizing and acknowledging how you feel, whether it be from church or family, or maybe even past decisions, something that you did that you can't forgive yourself for.
Right.
We see this a lot with women who've had abortions, where it's the deep, dark secret that they don't want to ever tell, and they're just covered with shame and guilt. And so that's where, we've got to say, no, that's a wound that hasn't healed right. Get some help for that.
Yeah. And so then understanding the why is, why does this actually hurt me? Why? So a lot of times, Hun, we talk about this with arguments. We've talked many times that what you are arguing about is almost never what you are arguing about. Okay, like if you're arguing,
what the problem is.
Yeah, there's something one layer down under the topic that you're arguing about that is usually a trait of character, of value. You know what? You disrespect me. You know what? You don't value me. You're not honest with me. You don't appreciate me. So it's a level down, and then you can throw any topic on it that stirs that up. And so if you just say, I'm mad at you because you came home 10 minutes late today, then you'll bicker about the 10 minutes late. Okay, so tomorrow it won't be 10 minutes late. But really the deal is, I'm upset with you because I can never trust what time you say you're going to be around.
Your word means nothing.
Yeah. And it's a trust issue. So it's getting more to the why you are hurt.
So one of our famous arguments we've talked about many times before.
That's an infamous,
yes, was the blue pants story. And if you don't know the blue pants story, you'll have to go back in our archives because I don't have time to tell the story. But we were arguing over me wanting you to buy a pair of blue pants, and you exploded. And really, it was the fact, it wasn't about the blue pants at all. It was a disrespect and control issue. Yeah. And so it went deeper than that. And so that's where you got to do step two. You got to understand the why. Why did I just blow up over a blue pair of pants?
Right.
And so that's where, and maybe it goes back to last year, over the past year, or maybe back to your parents, a parent doing the same kind of thing to you. And that's where it can be not just one layer down, but sometimes a couple layers down. Yeah.
So the next part of that, Hun, is so we'll call it step 3. So expressing those feelings, and we put on here being able to express them in a safe place. Yeah. Now we would absolutely love for the two of you to be safe enough with each other that you could actually work through this. And so, I think back about that with that argument, Hun, and neither of us were trained counselors at the time. We were teachers, and maybe we had a personality that lent itself to being able to sit down a little bit. But we came upon the idea that this was a trust issue. It wasn't like we went, oh, well, right away, this is trust or this is disrespect. And so we were kind of lucky and at least a little bit perceptive to say, I think this is really what the issue is. And so, but the idea here is you've got to either be able to do that, build the skills to do it, or you've got to get a safe place or person. So oftentimes in our work, we actually function as a mediator.
Yep.
And the mediator is like, listen, guys, I don't carry all the answers, but right here is safe.
Yeah.
I'll help put the boundaries up so that we're not getting into the emotional disruptions and pointing fingers and making name calls. Yeah. And so getting some help to do that.
A lot of times it will start with one spouse who will call one of us or make an appointment with one of us, and they'll just come in and they're like, okay, I feel like I'm going crazy, or I can't get this out of my head, or I feel like I got to do something with this. And then they'll kind of like vomit. They'll vomit the pain. Gross. They'll vomit the infection that's been brewing and simmering under the surface for probably years, sometimes decades. And then we'll be like, okay, then we hear you. What are we going to do about it? We're just not going to let you just, whine and complain. It's like, okay, I hear you. This is a very painful part of your story. And sometimes it involves somebody else. And if it involves somebody else, we're really quick to say, we want that other person in.
Yeah.
We're not going to just sit here and let you bellyache and complain all the time about it. We're going to help you resolve it and heal it.
Yeah. That's how people remain stuck. So, there's a lot of ways to help with that. I mean, it's getting peace in your mind, it's prayer, it's meditation, it's writing, it's out for a quiet walk by yourself. It's that taking the time away and just allowing yourself to put words. Remember the old Jim Borgman poster where he had whatever it was, 20
How
different
you're feeling today,
emotions and a drawing and a character drawing. And the idea was like, okay, how are you feeling right now? Now, like, what's behind that? What is making you so mad? And just going to that deeper level. And that sometimes you can't do that in the heat of the battle.
Yeah.
You have to step back and say, really, like this, the continuing theme in our marriage here is that we always seem to step on a landmine when this topic or this issue comes up.
Yeah. I really think, hon, we are hitting a nerve in our world today. We are not doing these well. We are carrying around so many infected wounds that we're not acknowledging. We're not understanding where they're coming from. We're not expressing them in a healthy, safe way. So that's why you have people going off on each other on a plane or in a parking lot or in a store, because we are not teaching our kids and we are not modeling and demonstrating as a couple how it is to express and understand and how to acknowledge how we're feeling and why.
Yeah, man, that's a great point. I mean, it's a bit of a insecurity and fear of my self-righteousness. I have to be right. I have to get even. And so that goes to our fourth point that whether we like it or not, we are all by our very nature selfish, a level of entitlement, like I have to get my way, I have to be heard, I have to be understood. And when I don't get that, and I'm guilty of this, right, with my avoidance, just because I avoid it, that doesn't mean I don't passively, aggressively sneak back around and try to put in an insult or make you feel bad or make you rethink something a different way. And so the idea here is, there's no forgiveness, right? I'm still trying to create I hope you know how I feel now. You feel a little bit of my pain. Now we can maybe talk.
So that's step 4, give up the right to get even. But I want to jump back to step 3 again and how we express it in a safe place, because this may not be as much for men, but women, wow. When I have a woman in my office and she is just hurting and she has been wounded deeply, I will sometimes have to combat it in a bunch of different ways. And so I will give them homework where I will give them a journal and I will give them homework to write in their journal. I will ask them to pray every day for that person that's wounded them. I will have them go and start exercising, start doing yoga, start taking walks. Sometimes they love music or art, and I'll have them do that. For guys, it may be more of punching a punching bag or getting into, jiu-jitsu or something that is going to get those feelings out in a healthy way. But hun, here's one that is really not thought of, but is very effective. And that is getting out of your own way and serving others. Sometimes we get so stuck in our wounds and our pain, and we think that it's all about me and everyone, is feeling this way. And so Isaiah 58 verse 7 says, share your food with the hungry, give shelter to the homeless, give clothes to those in need. Do not hide from relatives who need your help. Then your salvation will come like the dawn, and your wounds will quickly heal. I love that. Godliness will lead you forward, and the glory of the Lord will protect you from behind. Then when you call, the Lord will answer. Yes, I am here. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we have to kind of get out of ourselves,
right,
and realize that, this isn't the end of the world. It's not all about us. And that sometimes we have to look beyond ourselves. And God says he will heal our wounds quickly when we call out to him and when we put others first.
Yeah, that is so much of the self-centeredness, right? Like when I'm so hurt and bothered that I don't have time to serve
lick
others.
My wounds.
Yeah, and just keep doing it and doing it. And there's a time we do need to heal. And so the extreme of that could be, we do know people who just completely go out and are self-absorbed and just serving. And in the meantime, their own life is a mess.
Right. Don't deal with their own stuff. That's true.
Right.
There's a healthy balance in that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So number 1 is acknowledge those feelings. 2 is understand the why. 3 is express them in a safe place. 4 is give up the right to get even. And number 5,
be open and ready for God's healing. Hun, this is a tough one, man, because even though we are a faith-based ministry, we have many, many, many couples that come to us with just a variety on the spectrum of where they are with faith in God and all of their understanding. And so one couple, we can say, hey, let's pray and let's invite God in, let's not keep him out on the sidelines. And they totally get it. And another couple will be like, you really believe that stuff?
Yeah.
And so the idea here is, first and foremost, like in order to heal a wound, you finally have to lay back and you have to trust and you have to be submissive to the doctor. You have to lay your hand out there as you're like, oh man, he's getting ready.
Trust the Lord, not necessarily the person that hurt you. Right.
Yeah. You have to trust the process. And this is where we're trying to trust God. And so we want to invite him in. And so why would I trust God if I don't even believe in God? Right. Like if I don't even get that concept. And so it's very difficult for many people. But this could go on to so many other conversations. But this is the idea of, this is why we develop our faith. This is why we study our faith, because we have to be able to study God and go, you know what? I do believe and I do trust in his word and his comfort and provision. So I can start to rest and start to understand forgiveness and healing and grace, because all of these things are really super important in the healing process.
It doesn't mean you're a doormat for the future. It doesn't mean that what they did was right or okay. It means you want to heal right.
Right.
And you know that holding on to revenge and hate and unforgiveness and bitterness will only keep reinfecting your wound. It's not going to heal right if you're holding on to those things. That's what step 5 is. Be open and willing to let God do the healing and do it right.
Yeah, I mean, Ephesians 3:20 and 21 says, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us.
Yeah.
To him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations forever and ever. So the idea here, guys, is, God can heal what we can't. All right. And so, sometimes you might think there's no way. I'm so bitter. I'm so hurt. And this is where, us really submitting, like, Lord, I don't know how you're going to do this, but I'm going to have an open heart for it to at least have the opportunity to occur.
And I'm going to do the work. See, again, we're going back to the title of the show. Does time heal all wounds? No, it doesn't. Alone, it does not. It's time along with our work.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so, Proverbs 12:18 says, the words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. And Psalm 143:3 says, He heals the brokenhearted and He bandages their wounds. God can do that. God can heal it. We've got to involve Him in the process.
All right. Excellent stuff. Okay. So our challenge that kind of goes in a little bit into our takeaway for you here. Our challenge is, this week or in the upcoming days, think about how you've altered your life based off of past wounds. Remember, things will heal, but whether they heal effectively and properly is a different thing. What kind of limp do you have in your life? Do you have a PTSD sort of irrationality about you that as soon as you hear or see something, your mind goes to a different place? Do you avoid because you don't even know how to encounter a situation? Do you have a resentment and hate in your heart? These are all things that are worth you going, man, I really have altered my pathway in life due to this past hurt.
Yeah.
And we have to stop excusing it. So I would challenge you this week to don't excuse it. And these are excuse things. If you'd been through what I've been through, you'd feel the same way.
Yep.
Now that I understand, but I don't. Not in terms of you actually healing. You have to go through the breaking down of this.
Or that's just who I am. And so you kind of excuse it away, you kind of justify it away. But anything from your past that still hurts to touch or to think about, that's exactly what the enemy is going to use against you. That's what he's going to keep you bound in chains by. And so we want more for you. We believe that he can set you free and help you to experience that freedom and that peace that only comes through Jesus Christ.
All right, so what are you waiting for? Let's go. Let's start the healing. There are brighter days beyond that. If we can be part of that, please reach out to us, rocksolidfamilies.org. Give our office a call if you need to, 812-576-7625. Maybe we could be the safe place. Maybe we could help monitor and help mediate through that. But whatever the case, don't keep limping because it's really breaking your stride.
Or don't let the things stay infected. So thank you for listening to Rock Solid Families, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day.
Rock Solid Radio wants to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. They offer a wide selection of high-quality plants, landscaping materials, and home decor. They do amazing high-quality work and can help you transform your indoor and outdoor living spaces into something beautiful. So stop by Casey's Outdoor Solutions today and let them know you appreciate their support for Rock Solid Radio. Visit Casey's today at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana.